Good morning. I would like to call this meeting to order at 10:01 a.m. As a courtesy to all, please make sure that you've silenced your cell phones. Also, I would like to remind the directors to turn their microphones on each time they speak to help with the audio and video recordings. For the record, I'll note the public meeting notice was properly posted as required by law, and the notice of this board meeting was provided to each of the directors. At this time, I would like to ask Director Huber to deliver an invocation.
Please pray with me. Our Heavenly Father, we're thankful for all the blessings that you bestowed on us. We're thankful especially for the rain that we're getting in all of our northern areas of our basin anyway, and we pray that you would send more rain to the southern area if it's your will. Thank you for the privilege of serving the people of Texas in this organization. We thank you for each of these directors who take their time out for this, and we're thankful so much for the staff that does so much good work here. We ask you to bless this meeting, give us wisdom as we make decisions, and we pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Directors Tom Abraham, Mike Fernandez, and John Henry Luton indicated that they would not be present at this meeting. We've now reached the portion of the meeting where we've set aside time to hear from you, the general public. Those interested in providing comments by filling out one of the cards available at the receptionist desk will be called to approach the podium to make their comments at this time. Seeing that no one wishes to speak, we will continue on with our first agenda item. Number 1, report and possible discussion on General Manager CEO report by David Collingsworth, General Manager and CEO. David.
Madam Chair, I don't wish to speak either.
What?
All right. Thank you, David. Agenda item number 2, discussion and possible action on MOU, Gulf Coast Water Authority, desal study by Brad Brunette, Central and Lower Basin Regional Manager.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
This is an action item. We're seeking your authorization to enter a memorandum of understanding with the Gulf Coast Water Authority and the Harris-Galveston Subsidence District to conduct the seawater desalination feasibility study down on the coast. So Gulf Coast Water Authority is one of our largest water customers. They've got substantial water rights on the Brazos River, and in addition to that, as you all know, they contract with us for over 86,000 acre-feet per year of long-term water, and they periodically purchase interruptible water from us as well. They supply water for a variety of purposes. They supply raw water to municipalities, irrigators, as well as industry. And then they also have a treated water plant down in Texas City where they supply a lot of folks with treated water. I know some of the text on here is pretty small, but here's where their canals come off the river. This is A up here, and you can see Canal B here, and then Chocolate Bayou over here. These names of the yellow boxes are all of their customer entities that they serve. So they're a large customer of ours and a large supplier on the Gulf Coast. So they submitted a grant application to the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation for a regional seawater desalination feasibility study back in February of last year. That grant application, in that application, they identified a total study effort of looking at seawater desalination down there of $731,000. And the way the Bureau's grant program works, the Bureau would fund half of that through a grant, and then local sponsors would fund the remaining half. Their application, they were notified late last fall that it scored very high and that they were moving forward to the next process or the next step, and they're expecting to have a grant award in April. They've approached the BRA and the Harris-Galveston Subsidence District to help perform the study and share the local match costs. And so when you look at half of the total study costs and divide that up by 3, you're looking at about $123,000 per entity to share the local match there. The way the process would work, GCWA is going to manage the study effort. They'll be entering the grant contract with the Bureau of Reclamation, and then they're also going to be contracting with an engineering firm to do the work. but we'll be heavily involved in that effort and involved with the decision points and providing input and feedback as the process goes along. And frankly, the benefit to BRA for this project is that if we have a large source of water being injected to the lower part of our basin in the future for current customers there as well as future needs, obviously we can keep more of our reservoir and surface water upstream for other growing parts of the basin. So it's something that in concept offers major benefits for us, and hopefully with this feasibility study maybe will be the start of actually getting a project down there someday that will work and will help us free up some water upstream. So this slide lists the major tasks that they included in the grant application. I'm not going to read through those. You can kind of glance through them. The GCWA is currently working with Black & Veatch. It's an engineering company. They're working on a detailed scope of work and a contract to actually do the study work. They're planning to begin in May after the grant award in April. And again, they're wanting to split the local match amongst themselves, BRA and the subsidence district. They're proposing an MOU among the three parties, and in that MOU, it will outline our financial requirement for the third match, as well as any responsibilities and how the study process is going to work and so forth going forward. And so I think that's all that I have. I do have a resolution on the next slide here, and it's to authorize entering that MOU for the study effort, and also authorize that we participate up to a third or $150,000. So I'm seeking authorization for a little bit more in the event that the grant turns out to be a little bit more, or something changes and we need a little bit more. But the authorization would be for a third of the local match up to that $150,000.
Any questions for Brad? Yes, Director Lattimore.
Because we're a participant, potentially a participant, would we have access to the technology that may be developed as a part of this study? I'm thinking about future use, maybe for application in other areas of the basin.
Yes, sir. I don't see why we wouldn't. I think at this level, if the feasibility, they're going to be looking at where they would put the plant, what type of technology would actually be used, what the cost would look like. And a big part of it is looking at, the water savings, or, what is the regional benefit, not only from that seawater down there, but for Brazos River water further upstream. So I don't think that at the end of this level of feasibility study, there's going to be a whole lot, in terms of like RO technology, that type of detail. But us being involved at the ground level and moving forward with it, the next step of this thing would probably be a detailed design of a plant. And, at that point, we could choose to go forward and be a part of that as well. So I think the answer, it's a long-winded answer, but I think the answer is yes, but we're still a ways from that point.
Good. Thank you very much.
And Director Ruiz.
A question. I know certain other countries have already done all these studies, especially Saudi Arabia, and I think Dubai, and they have all these desalination plants. Why do you have to reinvent the wheel? Why can't we just get their technology and use it?
So it's not really about the technology. You're absolutely right in terms of how you actually desalinate seawater or brackish water. The question comes down, it's location, location, location. So where would we put a facility on the coast? Where would you dispose of the concentrate that comes from that? And what are the costs of it? Because the reason it's not been done here is not because of the technology. It's because the cost of of desalinating seawater historically has been quite a bit higher than surface water and groundwater. And so it's not necessarily reinventing the wheel. It's figuring out which of those technologies, where would we put it, and what does the cost look like, and how could you get the state to get involved and help subsidize it if the costs are too much for the locals to bear at this point. It's those types of questions that will be addressed in this effort.
Thank you.
So, Brad, at the end of this 12 months, they estimate it'll take 12 months. Then they'll have the answers to those type questions and know whether it's feasible to proceed further with the project, right?
Yes, sir.
I like it.
Yes, Director Savage.
I just want to go on record as saying this is a bargain because we're getting the BLM grant, and to get this information, and of course, we know how long it's going to take, to develop other water resources through reservoirs. And so, with ASR, desal, anything that we can do for an all of the above approach is certainly a terrific step in the right direction. I'm glad we're part of it.
Director LaChance.
Brad, are you seeing or is Gulf Coast saying anything about the chemical industry partnering up in this?
They're not going to financially partner, but obviously they would be, one of the users at this point. I mean, Gulf Coast is paying a third, we're paying a third, and the Bureau or the subsidence district's paying a third.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, Director Bourne.
I want to call that as a sort of lack of a better word, a wedge, David. I support this resolution, but I want to go back to what Director Ruiz said. All the Middle East is using desalination. I've been there, seen it in Israel. A lot of us have, and I know how Texas is. We get down to the Dalcom and where we live in West Texas or different areas, just like they mentioned this morning. It's brackish. It's this. It's that. At some point in time, we need to, and I'm sure, knowing you, I'm sure you've already been looking at it. We need to figure out a way, if there's a way to look at desalination as a real long-term strategy, and how can we get there with technology? Because if we keep back saying it's this, it's that, it's too expensive and never shift, it's going to happen, or something's going to happen. We're going to have to make it happen, and it's being done so many other places. We just got to figure out a way for us long-term, if that's a possible, what possibilities may be there. So it's just really more of a comment, follow up with what Director Ruiz said, and, as of this morning. So, but I do support the resolution.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right. Please read the resolution.
Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the General Manager, CEO, to execute memorandum of understanding with the Gulf Coast Water Authority and the Harris-Galveston Subsidence District to participate in a regional seawater desalination feasibility study led by the Gulf Coast Water Authority and conducted in compliance with the U.S. Department of Interior Reclamation Title Roman numeral 16, Water Reclamation and Reuse Program and Desalination Construction Program Feasibility Study Review Process. Be it further resolved that the General Manager, CEO, is authorized to contribute 1/3 of the local match funding required for the study effort up to an amount not to exceed $150,000.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. Is there a motion to adopt? A motion made by Director Crone, a second by Director Wilson. Please pull the board.
Presiding Officer Flores,
Yes.
Director Huber,
Yes.
Director Lloyd,
Yes.
Director Bourne,
Yes.
Director Geezy,
Yes.
Director Henderson,
Yes.
Director Jimenez,
Yes.
Director Khan,
Yes.
Director Crum,
Yes.
Director LaChance,
I'm going to abstain.
Director Lattimore,
Yes.
Director Embro,
Yes.
Director Parks,
Yes.
Director Ruiz,
Yes.
Director Savage,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Agenda item number 3, discussion and possible action on the authorization of 2024 interruptible water by Aaron Abel, Water Services Manager.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Directors. We brought this item before you back in November, and as you may recall, we chose to not make 2024 interruptible water available due to the basin-wide drought impacts. And we also put a caveat in there that said, if we saw substantial improvements, we would come back to the board with an updated recommendation. And I'm pleased to say that we have seen some improvements. And we'll get a little bit more into that. But with this item, we're seeking to gain authorization to make available 41,913 acre feet of interruptible water available for 2024 across the basin outside of the Little River Reservoir subsystem. This part of the basin, the Little River system, is still continues to be impacted by drought, and we have to be conservative in making interruptible water available and protect our long-term contract holders. So I'm not going to go into great detail because, we heard this in November, but, I'll touch on a couple of these. We basically have two standard contracting options available. Long-term water, that goes out to more than 5 years, or interruptible water, which is sold on a 1-year basis when it's available. And interruptible water can be interrupted. And there's provisions in our interruptible water sales procedures that if we reach stage 3, we can suspend the use of interruptible water agreements. And the availability isn't guaranteed. So interruptible water is firm water that's left in storage within the reservoirs that's not used in the previous year, and it varies from year to year depending on past water usage. The last 2 years have been the second and third highest water use for an annual use on record. Number one was obviously 2011. So it varies year to year, and the last 2 years we've had some higher use. So interruptible water is made available and sold at a system rate. So for FY 2024, $93.50 per acre foot. And then we do have obviously an agricultural rate that is $65.45 an acre foot. So the two rates for interruptible water. We've been supplying interruptible water since 2008, and it's typically purchased by ag and mining use as backup supply. And I've already mentioned the provisions in our interruptible water sale procedure as far as suspending use at stage 3. This is a graphic that summarizes the amount of interruptible water that has been offered, contracted, and used from 2008 through 2023. It's pretty busy, but the y-axis is acre feet volume, and then the blue is the amount offered. The reddish brown or whatever that color is the amount that was contracted, and then green is the amount sold. So, in most years, interruptible water doesn't really get used that much, and it's mainly due to the fact that, it's used for insurance purposes. We do have a procedure that outlines all of the pertinent details with regard to interruptible water. The annual calculation methodology includes a safety factor established by the board each year. The purpose of that safety factor is to ensure that interruptible contracts don't impact long-term contracts. And we have to be conservative in making interruptible water available. The recommended safety factor of 0.25, it provides a 75% margin of safety, and that's been used in every year since the inception of interruptible water in 2008. And this slide shows the numbers that result from our calculations for interruptible water defined by our procedure. And those are the numbers shown in the second column. The amounts vary by location, so we break it down by the different parts of the basin, which is column 1. And we have omitted the Little River reservoir subsystem in the calculation due to the ongoing droughts in that part of the basin. In total, the 2024 interruptible calculation equals the 41,913 acre feet across the reservoir segments that you see here. We have an application process to submit requests for interruptible water, and that's outlined in our interruptible water sale procedure. And based on that process, we've received around 93 total requests of about 23,000 acre feet of water basin-wide. Of these 93 requests, we've had about 11 requests from the Little River system. So that is essentially, from the confluence of the Little River and Brazos River upstream, towards all the reservoirs in the Little River system to Belton, Stillhouse Hollow, and then also including Proctor up there. So that totaled around 1,700 acre feet of requests, and we have coordinated with these entities that requested water or interrupted water from the Little River system, just to let them know that this was our recommendation to not make it available, because we have to be conservative and protect our long-term customers in that part of the basin. So this graphic summarizes the positive changes we've experienced across the basin, and I want to point out a couple of things. So I've shown, the reservoir status. We call this our stovepipe diagram, but the red lines are the storage level relative to all the other reservoirs as of November 1st, 2023. And the blue line is essentially where we are a couple of weeks ago. We've inched up a little bit higher in the last couple of weeks, but overall, we've seen improvements primarily outside of the Little River Basin. And then in the upper right, we see a data table that lists the reservoirs, the total system storage in November 1st, and then the percent full as of March 13th. So you can see we've seen, and then also the change in yellow on the far right. So overall, and we've inched up a little bit more. This morning, we're about 86% full as a system. So we've increased about 12%. A little over 225,000 acre feet. So we have seen some improvements, and like I said, primarily it was outside of the Little River Basin. We have seen some improvements at Belton, and a little bit at Stillhouse Hollow, and also Proctor. We have seen some rainfall up in that area, and that's a good news. We're obviously in spring. Hopefully we can get continued rainfall and get inflows into the system more and increase that storage. So the factors to consider as far as the interrupted water, we've experienced substantial improvement across the system. Now, we're at the point where we're comfortable in making interruptible water available. Last month, we were able to rescind the stage 1 drought watch for the overall system as the total system storage rose above the storage trigger for stage 1, which was around a little under 80% full. 7 of the 11 reservoirs within the system are full or very, very close to full. Possum Kingdom is, about half an inch from being at our operational full level. So, the main stem and Lake Limestone, Somerville, those areas are doing really well. And then, of course, the Little River system, we're still under stage 4 per rata curtailment at Lake Proctor. Belton and the Stillhouse Hollow Georgetown system remain in stage 2 drought warning. And, we've continued to see inflows in that part of the basin continue to be at historic lows. So that's why we're excluding that part of the basin in our recommendation. So, as I mentioned, we're here to get authorization to make 2024 interruptible water available in the amount of 41,913 acre feet to the reservoirs and reservoir segments outside of the Little River Basin. We're assume the 0.25 safety factor. So if anybody has any, I'm here to answer questions, but we do have a resolution.
Back to the standpipe thing.
Oh yeah, sure.
This one. So one of the things I remember us talking about quite a bit is the connection between Lake Granger and Stillhouse Hollow. And what I see there is Granger's overfull, Stillhouse Hollow's not so full. Is there a way for us to move water between the two so that they too could be included in the interruptible water?
We have a direct connection between Stillhouse Hollow and Georgetown through the Williamson County Regional Raw Water Line that transfers water from Stillhouse Hollow to Lake Georgetown to supplement the supply in Georgetown. Lake Granger is downstream of Lake Georgetown, and it typically,
that's right,
it does stay pretty full a lot of the time. It perennially has some inflows due to discharges upstream, but right now we don't have a connection necessarily between Granger and the other parts of the Little River system. Obviously, we supply treated water to our 3 customers at Granger. But, that's something that, in the planning realm, we're considering those types of things to, develop supply in that part of the basin in the future.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing no other questions, please read the resolution.
Whereas in accordance with the Brazos River Authority's interruptible water sale procedure, the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority originally considered the authorization of 2024 interruptible water at its November 2023 board meeting, and whereas due to the continued drought conditions, exceptionally low reservoir inflows, the Stage 4 pro rata curtailment declaration for the Lake Proctor and the potential for additional Stage 3 drought emergency declarations in 2024, interruptible water was not authorized for sale in calendar year 2024. And whereas the potential for the authorization of 2024 interruptible water at a later date was acknowledged at the November 2023 board meeting if drought conditions improved and inflow produced a significant increase in reservoir storage within the BRA water supply system during calendar year 2024, and whereas substantial improvement in drought conditions has occurred across much of the basin, with reservoir storage increasing over 210,000 acre feet since November 2023, and whereas drought impacts continue within the Little River Reservoir subsystem with Lake Belton and the Lake Stillhouse Hollow Lake Georgetown subsystem in Stage 2 drought warning and Lake Proctor in Stage 4 pro rata curtailment. Now, therefore, be it resolved that no interruptible water availability agreements shall be authorized for the diversion from the Little River Reservoir subsystem, Lake Proctor, Lake Belton, Lake Stillhouse Hollow, Lake Georgetown, and Lake Granger, or from locations downstream of the reservoirs within the Little River Reservoir subsystem to the confluence of the Little River and Brazos River. Be it further resolved that if drought conditions improve and inflows produce a significant increase in reservoir storage within the Little River Reservoir subsystem during calendar year 2024, the authorization of interruptible water within the Little River Reservoir subsystem may be presented to the board for consideration at a later date. Be it further resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby approves a safety factor of 0.25 for use in determining the amounts of interruptible water to make available in the calendar year 2024. Be it further resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the General Manager CEO to make up to 41,913 acre feet of interruptible water available for calendar year 2024.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. Is there a motion to adopt? Motion made by Director Huber, a second made by Director Embro. Please poll the board.
Presiding Officer Flores,
Yes.
Director Huber,
Yes.
Director Lloyd,
Yes.
Director Bourne,
Yes.
Director Geezy. Yes. Director Henderson,
Yes.
Director Jimenez,
Yes.
Director Khan,
Yes.
Director Crone,
Yes.
Director LaChance,
Yes.
Director Lattimore,
Yes.
Director Embro,
Yes.
Director Parks,
Yes.
Director Ruiz,
Yes.
Director Savage,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
So if you're wondering who that baritone is, we do not have a barbershop quartet, but we had to go to the bullpen. That's David Jones. Steve Hamlin usually reads our resolutions, but his daughter's playing basketball in that March Madness stuff tonight. So
Oh,
he's away
fun.
at a basketball game. So go Frogs.
I was looking around. I was like, where is that voice coming from? But I couldn't even see you. Okay. Agenda item number 4, discussion and possible action on concrete assessment and service life extension Castle Amendment number 2 by Mike McClendon, Upper Basin Regional Manager. Good morning, Mike.
Thank you, Presiding Officer Flores, members of the board. This agenda item is consistent with our strategic plan, Section 2B, in which we ensure we maintain our infrastructure and our assets. So to carry forward with our goals and objectives of our strategic plan, we're seeking an amendment to the Phase 3 Concrete Assessment and Service Life Extension Project with Gannett Fleming. Gannett Fleming's all but completed all 3 phases of the project. This would allow us to consult with Gannett Fleming when this is a project that our RSMU group is going in and making all the substantive concrete repairs at Moore Shepherd Dam. So if they run across something that they haven't seen or that's they just need to kind of talk with the engineer, that's what we're seeking here, to be able to have them be able to go back and talk with the engineer and get their perspective. So going back to phase 1 of the evaluation, Gannett Fleming, along with BRA staff, identified areas upon the dam that pose the highest risk. And from this FN chart, we identified the deck the corbels and the deck slabs as the critical elements that we need to ensure the longevity of the dam. The Castle project culminated into the development of a long-term structural concrete testing and repair program One of the critical components of that program is the guide, and that provides RSMU staff a methodology for investigating and repairing the areas that are prioritized on the dam. The guide also provides generalized specs and drawings. So the specs and drawings that RSMU has that Gannett Fleming prepared is probably going to cover 95 to 97% of what they're going to run across out there on the dam. However, the guide, or not however, but the guide also provides a process for observing, evaluating, and repairing the concrete structure. When RSMU is out there evaluating the cracks and spalls that'll occur, they'll consult the guide, and if it answers no to any of these three questions, then the recommendation is to consult with the engineer. These three questions are really related around the reinforcing steel. Does the reinforcing steel match the record drawings? Do the typical repairs, those 95 to 97% of the typical repairs that they run across, are they already addressed by the design? Or the deterioration level of that steel? Is it, there's a table that Gannett Fleming prepared, and is it 20, 30, 40% more so? If it reaches a threshold within that, then our RSMU group would reach out to Gannett Fleming and ask them, should they evaluate this further to make sure the repair is done correctly. So as I said, we're looking at amending, this would be amendment number 2. The existing phase 3, the contract amount was $765,000. There was an amendment number 1 that we did, I don't know, maybe a year or 2 ago to that contract. There was a significantly deteriorated walkway. It was beyond the scope of the contract at that time. RSMU, Gannett Fleming provided the design. They went and evaluated it. There was a structural assessment of that, and RSMU has since made the repair. And I think my next slide actually shows a portion of that repair. So in summary, if they run across anything that they're unfamiliar with, Gannett Fleming would review shop drawings, construction drawings. They'd perform an evaluation, make a recommendation, consult with RSMU. Gannett Fleming provided this service to a similar project. So there's our pier plate wall project that's associated with the 9 major gates, our floodgates. And we've been doing that for about 3 years. RSMU is making those repairs. And I will just say RSMU, I try to tout them every time I'm in here, but they do an incredible job and save the BRA a tremendous amount of money. Yeah, RSMU is our reservoir system maintenance units. It's comprised of about 19 BRA employees that do everything from fabrication to installation. So all the gates up at PK, they've replaced. And then this pier plate wall project is the side walls that help the gates rise up and down. Gannett Fleming provide the engineering design. For comparative purposes, just to give you of what I think will be the cost, once RSMU, we've already started making 2 or 3 repairs of the concrete structure. Once they get in and get familiar with the process, I think it'll kind of diminish how much they have to consult with the engineering firm. But for an example, we spend, I think $10,000 is the least in 1 year, and up to $40,000 has been the max for the pier plate wall project. So I think it'll be similar for this project as we move forward. This is example of the beam, one of the beams that they did repair. As you can see, they've already removed the delaminated concrete and exposed the rebar that I was talking about, the structural steel. And then over here on the right, you can see it where it's been repaired. I do have a resolution for your consideration, but I would entertain any questions that you might have.
Any questions? Yes, Director Savage.
You're not expecting the full 300,000? This is just what you as a contingency?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And just for comparative purposes, that amendment number 1 that we ran across, it was something that was unforeseen. That one was probably on the high end. It was $60,000. I don't think we spent the 60. I can't remember the exact number, but Gannett Fleming's been really good. Whenever you look at the different phases of the contract, if they don't do it, they're not billing towards it. It's 87% on phase 1, 95% on phase 2, and 78% on phase 3 is what they invoiced us for.
Yes, Director Taylor.
Mike?
Yes, sir.
For the record, I just wanted to comment that you all using your own in-house people are just, I mean, it's such good use and value of VRA money and time and materials. Having a company quote the repairs would be, I don't even know how much, but I think it would start with well over $1 million.
No, we've done that analysis, and I think we may have brought it to the board at, I think Randall McCartney brought it to the board back about a year ago, and it was in the millions of dollars.
And it just, this is good job. Well done.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All the thanks goes to those guys, though.
Any other questions? See no other questions, please read the resolution.
Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the General Manager, CEO, to execute, Amendment Number 2 to the Professional Services Contract with Gannett Fleming Incorporated for Phase 3 of the Concrete Assessment and Service Life Extension Project, increasing the total not to exceed amount by $300,000.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. Is there a motion to adopt? A motion made by Director Wilson, a second made by Director Henderson. Please pull the board.
Presiding Officer Flores,
Yes.
Director Huber,
Yes.
Director Lloyd,
Yes.
Director Bourne,
Yes.
Director Geezy,
Yes.
Director Henderson,
Yes.
Director Jimenez,
Yes.
Director Khan,
Yes.
Director Crone,
Yes.
Director LaChance,
Yes.
Director Lattimore,
Yes.
Director Embro,
Yes.
Director Parks,
Yes.
Director Ruiz,
Yes.
Director Savage,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Agenda item number 5, discussion and possible action on Possum Kingdom elevator repairs by Mike McClendon, Upper Basin Regional Manager. I think we've all been in those elevators. We're interested to hear what you've got to say about them.
And Madam Chairman, if you will, I looked up and I looked in the gallery over here, and we have, especially we have Gannett Fleming, several members of Gannett Fleming in attendance today, and Stuart Body, if you'll stand up, he was very key in our concrete assessment. So I appreciate everything that you've done for us.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Members of the board, as you alluded to, if you've gone on a tour of Moore Shepherd Dam, the cliff elevator was out of service. You probably didn't know it. We took you out of the front gate, drove you down by the fish hatchery, and you went up the Powerhouse Road and you entered the powerhouse. There was one time that I recall about a year ago, there were several directors out there, or at least 2 or 3. We successfully gone down the elevator, but whenever we were going back up, it wouldn't open. The doors wouldn't open. It was August, probably 100 degrees. Some of the directors elected to go back by vehicle, and a few of us decided to go up the stairs. That was probably not a good choice. It was hot, and it was about 8 stories. It was it was a lot more challenging than I expected. So unfortunately, some of y'all have been out there. But we do have 2 elevators at Moore Shepherd Dam. We have the cliff elevator. This is the elevator that I was talking about. It's about 8 stories with 2 landings. And then we have a pier elevator, and it's about 10 stories with 3 landings. The elevators, as you can see, are operated and maintained in a challenging environment, more so than what your typical elevator is operated and maintained at. We have since taken this cliff elevator completely out of service due to safety associated with the braking issues. The general repair costs have run about $120,000. We do have a maintenance agreement with Tyson Krupp manufacturer, but it's becoming much more difficult to get parts and service it due to its age. And for comparison purposes, when I was looking into this, Texas Motor Speedway in Fort Worth has 40 elevators. They're the exact same as this elevator, and they only have 22 that are operational for the same reasons. This is a photograph of our pier elevator. When we were looking at this, we went out, had 2 firms provide an assessment of the necessary upgrades. We solicited quotes. During that process, we noted that the elevator manufacturer, Tyson Krupp, they're on an approved government contract through Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing Agreement. And so we elected to go that route. Using that cooperative agreement, it saves time, money, and we'll progress on the project much more quickly. So the goal is to extend the service life of our infrastructure. These upgrades and repairs will accomplish that, and they will allow for a safe operation of the facility. The cost associated for the cliff elevator repairs are about $346,000. The pier elevator is about $394,000. For a total of about 740. You can see here I've estimated or added a little bit extra. You get into an older building, we inevitably run across things that we don't foresee. There's a 1-year warranty associated with this work. It will require, we're trying to look at explore some options to decrease the cost, but it will require a pretty substantial crane to go out there and access and make some of these repairs. If we can avoid that, some of the costs may come down. I do have a resolution for your consideration. I did look into the cost of completely new elevators. At a minimum, it was going to be around $2 million. And the repairs were going to require upgrades to the shafts. The cliff elevator wouldn't be too bad to accomplish, but the one in the pier elevator would require a structural repair. It would also require chipping away of a lot of the concrete to meet new regulations. And, you know, I'm trying to repair the concrete, not chip it away. So that was an endeavor that I didn't want to pursue any further. But I will take any questions. Yes, sir.
You said this is for repairing and upgrading. You're having a hard time getting parts, okay? Is this just like a temporary Band-Aid and you're going to have to wind up doing it again? Or,
no, sir. These repairs should last another 20 years, according to the...
I thought you said 1 year.
There's a 1-year warranty.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So these upgrades are expected to last the elevator another 20 years.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Director Taylor.
Mike, how many quotes did you get on this scope of work?
It was 2.
ThyssenKrupp and who else?
Troy, do you recall?
EMR, which is a company that does all the construction for all elevator maintenance technicians for the speedway. Their timeline wouldn't fit what we needed, so that's why we chose ThyssenKrupp.
And there were some proprietary issues too, I believe, associated with that.
Have you had a good relationship with ThyssenKrupp over the years?
I would say yes, sir. We have they're on our, as I said, they're on an agreement, maintenance agreement, and they've always been responsive. I think they're out of Dallas-Fort Worth areas where they come out of, so it's quick response time. And everything that I've seen has been beneficial. Yes, sir.
Amazing. Thank you.
Get lucky sometimes.
Yes, Director Savage.
It just seems like a 1-year warranty for something that's supposed to last 20 is a little short. Can we negotiate that?
Yeah, I mean, that's their standard warranty. We can negotiate it. I'm sure price increase will come along with that.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, please read the resolution.
Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the General Manager, CEO, to execute a service provider contract with ThyssenKrupp Elevator for an amount not to exceed $800,000 for repairs and upgrade of the 2 elevators located at Morris Shepherd Dam.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. I will make a motion to adopt. Second made by Director LaChance. Please pull the board.
Presiding Officer Flores,
Yes.
Director Huber,
Yes.
Director Lloyd,
Yes.
Director Boren,
Yes.
Director Geezy. Yes. Director Henderson,
Yes.
Director Jimenez,
Yes.
Director Khan,
Yes.
Director Crone,
Yes.
Director LaChance,
Yes.
Director Lattimore,
Yes.
Director Embro,
Yes.
Director Parks,
Yes.
Director Ruiz,
Yes.
Director Savage,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Regrettably, yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Agenda item number 6, discussion and possible action on recommendations from the Property Management Committee on B Mountain Properties by Blake Kettler, Technical Services Manager.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. With this agenda item, we'll provide a recommendation for the Board of Directors regarding the future use of the B Mountain properties. And I apologize to all the folks on the property management committee that have to sit here and listen to me go over the same thing. I guess I should have just recorded it earlier, but we'll get started. So the B Mountain properties, as you may recall, these have been in our ownership since the 1950s, and there's a lot of history here. There's a lot of agenda items. If you go back and start doing some research, there's a lot going on with it. I'm going to try to hit some of the highlights just to bring everybody up to speed, and we'll go from there. So back in the 1950s, this was a proposed reservoir site in Somerville, Johnson, and Bosque counties, located on the Brazos River and part of the 6-dam program, as you can see there in the image. B Mountain being the bottom of those reservoirs. This you could think of this is similar to kind of how the Highland Lakes in the Lower Colorado Basin are set up. It's basically stair-stepping reservoirs. Out of that, only Possum Kingdom and De Cordova Bend Dam or Granbury were the ones that ever came to fruition. None of the other reservoirs were pursued. So in the 50s, while we were out acquiring property and easements for B Mountain, BRA ran into the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers doing the same thing for Lake Whitney, which is just there south of B Mountain. With that, BRA digressed and entered into an agreement with the Corps. This agreement and the associated terms were amended multiple times throughout the years, which I think extended all the way up until about 1962 timeframe. And this is an important date because of after multiple amendments to the property acquisition agreement with the Corps as part of that project, they refused their option in the agreement to acquire the properties from BRA, which left them in our possession. During that time frame, BRA acquired 57 tracts, totaling approximately 1,200 acres along the Brazos. Some properties were outright purchased, while others we went through the condemnation process for them. Over the years, many of these tracts have been reconveyed to their original heirs, while we have retained flowage easement to certain meets and bounds. These reconveyance activities went on until the late 1990s, early 2000s. The Corps also has flowage easements in this area in order to permanently inundate up to the 533 elevation, which is a normal operating pool for Whitney. Going back a slide, if you look where B Mountain is in relation to Lake Whitney, the water actually backs up to that area. They also retain the right to, occasionally inundate the property up to the 573 for flood ops. Currently, BRA still retains 324 acres and 19 tracts located in that area. You can see them there on the map. Over the years, and we've received many requests to purchase these properties, interest in additional, in different tracts from different property owners. And generally, our response is that, hey, we understand you're interested in these, but we're going to evaluate these as part of a larger property initiative. And we kind of covered that a little bit in the property management committee this morning, and this was part of that process. So with that in mind, we've determined internally to evaluate the properties based on factors such as operational necessity, flooding, water quality, species considerations, different things like that. And ultimately came to the conclusion that these properties do serve BRA important environmental purposes. And it's in our best interest for BRA to retain ownership of the B Mountain tracts moving forward. These properties provide a water quality protection buffer zone and potential conservation opportunities. And I'm going to pause at this point. I'm going to ask Tiffany to come up, and her staff did a really good job on the evaluation process, so she'll kind of talk you through that and some of the findings there.
Hi, yes, we sent the team of aquatic scientists out, and this was a nice site because all the properties are real compact and they can navigate by kayak and hit them all. They came back and said, in their opinion, this is some of the most pristine riparian vegetation they've seen in the basin. Other than a few spots, it is almost completely undisturbed by agriculture activities or even evidence of people getting down to the river in this spot. They said there are some properties that would provide us good opportunity if in the future we needed a site for Brazos water snake mitigation. They also found evidence of freshwater mussels. Granted, that was last year. It was really hot and the water levels were really low and everything they found was dead, but it was recently dead. So mussels can survive in those segments. So They thought that was some of the nicest. They said it was almost in most places 1,000+ feet in width, which gives us really good filtration for upland pollutants heading towards the river before they get there. So that'll stop a lot of it. And I bet it'd be kind of like the lower basin. If we set a survey marker and come back after a big flood, we're going to have to dig 2 feet of sediment out to find our survey marker, just because that's going to slow that flow of the water from the upland down into the river. So they thought that that was really nice. It also provides a pretty good continuous corridor for wildlife movements too.
All right. Thank you, Tiffany. So with that said, we would like to make the recommendation to the board that BRA retains these properties into the future, as discussed. I guess one thing, just for clarification, there is one property that would be an exception to this. We're currently in discussions with that property owner, and here very soon, probably, just depend how things go, maybe next board meeting or the one after that, we'll be back to you guys to brief you on that individual property. So we do have a resolution, but I'll answer any questions.
Director LaChance, you're chair of that committee. Any comments or concerns, anything that?
Yeah, no concerns. In committee meeting previously today, maybe I want to mention, Blake, just a quick comment on the data warehouse management project that your team did and yes, that BRA did. I think it's a big win. To that point, projects like this, it will house all of the data associated with the properties. And I think it'll give us a clearer view in how we make decisions, really understanding the properties and giving us a little bit more visibility and transparency in those decision making. On this particular, I think that it's well thought out, very well done.
All right, Director Henderson.
David, this may be a question for you. I apologize for putting you on the spot here. So it looks like we're going to vote on, do we want to keep what we already have? So what's the significance of this vote? Why do we need to bring this to the board to have this resolution?
I think the significance is the public acknowledgement from this board that the use that we are declaring this property for is in fact that use, and the board therefore is directing staff to maintain this property as it is. Okay. That's the purpose.
Keep it pristine.
To keep it in the condition that it is, so that we can use it for the things that Blake acknowledged: mitigation, habitat.
Yes, sir. And I think it also helps us defend our position moving forward. When we do get inquiries out there, we've kind of made a determination of how we're going to use that property.
We have a lot of folks that reach out to the BRA and say, "Hey, are you interested in selling us that property?"
Yeah, that's
and now we can show that our board of directors sees a value in this property, and here's the value, and that data, as Director LaChance acknowledged, will be in this database, and we have a means for maintaining the use of this property.
I just want to make sure that we don't have to do this for every single property we own, because we had to create the database for it to begin with. That would be a lot of votes.
So the database is to allow a clearinghouse of all of the information and data so that our staff can use that when they need. But over time, that's kind of what the goal is to evaluate our properties and have our board have you adopt and recognize the significance of those properties.
Sure. Thank you.
Hold on one second. Okay, Jensen.
I'm good.
Okay. Director Taylor, did you have something?
Just curious, looking at the photographs, what is the average depth of that river at that point? This area? I mean, I can't tell how deep it is looking at the pictures.
I don't think it's very deep, but do you want to talk to that, Tiffany?
I mean, it looks very shallow at that point, but I didn't know if that was your typical.
It's wadeable with some perennial deep pools.
Okay.
So it's, for the most part, I'd say on me, waist deep or less, except for you will find some deep pools through there.
Director
So I guess
Parks?
typical to other areas that we see on the Brazos on the upper end, it'll vary a little bit. Yes.
Is there a timeline for the evaluation of the properties? Best case scenario?
You know,
No, ma'am, we don't really have a timeline in place. We're going to methodically move forward and there are hundreds of properties that have to be evaluated, some very large, some very small. So I would say over the next couple of years, we will look at all of our properties.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Seeing no other questions, please read the resolution.
Be it hereby resolved that the Property Management Committee recommends to the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority adoption of the following proposed resolution. Whereas the Brazos River Authority owns properties along the Brazos River in Bosque, Johnson, and Somerville counties, upstream of Lake Whitney, otherwise known as B Mountain properties, which were originally retained in the 1950s for the purpose of constructing a reservoir. Whereas the reservoir was not constructed, and for a period of approximately 40 years, the Brazos River Authority provided adjacent landowners the opportunity to repurchase these tracts. Whereas in 2002, after approximately 2/3 of the properties have been repurchased, the Brazos River Authority discontinued reselling the properties. Whereas after a reevaluation of the properties, it has been determined that retaining ownership and control of the B Mountain properties will serve to further the efforts of the Brazos River Authority to preserve and protect the natural resources of the Brazos River Basin, as the B Mountain properties provide a beneficial natural barrier for water quality protection benefits, stream bank stabilization, erosion control, and wildlife habitat. Further, these properties may also be utilized for potential future conservation opportunities to support the Brazos River Authority's mission and strategic goals. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby resolves to retain the B Mountain properties to support these efforts.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. There's a motion made by Director LaChance, a second by Director Taylor. Please call the board.
Presiding Officer Flores?
Yes.
Director Huber?
Yes.
Director Lloyd? Yes. Director Bourne?
Yes.
Director Geezy?
Yes.
Director Henderson?
Yes.
Director Jimenez?
Yes.
Director Kahn?
Yes.
Director Crone?
Yes.
Director LaChance?
Yes.
Director Lattimore?
Yes.
Director Embro?
Yes.
Director Parks?
Yes.
Director Ruiz?
Yes.
Director Savage?
Yes.
Director Smith?
Yes.
Director Taylor?
Yes.
Director Wilson?
Yes.
Agenda item number 7, discussion and possible action on surplus personal property by David Thompson, Chief Financial Officer.
Good morning. The last
Good
agenda,
morning.
the most exciting one too, right? So, as you know, state statute requires that anytime we get rid of personal property that's defective, too costly to repair, or simply don't need anymore, we need a board's approval. Also in this agenda item, I have a trade-in value. We have some 30-year-old cubicle furniture that's in my office group, and it's cost-effective to let the vendor take care of hauling it off for its own value. So you'll see that as part of the resolution, and I'd like to let you take a look at what we're trying to get rid of here. Any questions?
Please read the resolution. Anybody have any questions? All right, please read the resolution.
Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the General Manager, CEO, to dispose of the following surplus personal property under the terms and conditions that are in the best interest of the Brazos River Authority. Be it further resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the General Manager, CEO, to allow trade-in of miscellaneous cubicles at the central office under the terms and conditions that are at the best interest of the Brazos River Authority. Be it further resolved that the Board of Directors authorizes the General Manager, CEO, to continue to use and or maintain previous authorized surplus property in a manner that is in the best interest of the Brazos River Authority until appropriate replacement property is received and placed into service. Items no longer needed or repairs not cost efficient. Quantity 1, 2011 Ford F-150 extended cab, VIN 1 Foxtrot Tango Foxtrot X-Ray 1 Echo Foxtrot 3 Bravo Kilo Delta 22941. Quantity 1, 2005 F-250 Super Cab, VIN 1 Foxtrot Tango Sierra X-Ray 20575 Echo Charlie 2000 20127. Quantity 1, 2003 Ford F-350 Flatbed, 1 Foxtrot Delta Whiskey Foxtrot 37 Papa 43 Echo Charlie 57954 Romeo. Lot 1, Quantity 11, Motorola XTS 1500 handheld rechargeable radios, Quantity 10 Motorola Impress chargers, 14 batteries. Lot 2, miscellaneous furniture, 1 3-drawer cabinet, 29 inches tall, 20 inches long, 30 inches wide. One small table, 18 inches tall, 22 inches long, 27 inches wide. 1 2-shelf cabinet, 30 inches tall, 12 inches long, 30 inches wide. 1 5-shelf bookcase, 60 inches tall, 12 inches long, 36 inches wide. 1 16-compartment shelf, 35 inches tall, 11.5 inches long, 13 inches wide. Lot 3, TZ50 Genie lift. Lot 4, Kubota zero-turn mower, SN13579. Lot 5, Yamaha ATV 450 4x4, VIN 5 Yankee 4 Alpha Juliet 06 Yankee 03 Alpha 101 2556. Lot 6, 12-inch steel gate valve, quantity 3. Lot 7, diver level loggers, quantity 6. Lot 8, adjustable drafting table. Lot 9, Atlantic Mico metal walkway, 4 foot by 40 foot. Lot 10, Atlantic Mico metal walkway, 4 foot by 24 foot. Lot 11, steel tubing angle iron gate, 7 foot by 36 foot. Lot 12, easy dock ply float, 6 foot 5 inches by 9 foot 8 inches by 1 foot 4 inches, quantity 4, and aluminum walkway, 5 feet by 20 feet. Lot 13, 22 foot pontoon aluminum workboat, SN 59-2007. Lot 14, Bridegroom Service Incorporated single axle trailer, VIN Bravo Sierra 104200060 Romeo 0305. Lot 15, miscellaneous cubicles.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. Is there a motion to adopt? A motion made by Director Crone, a second by Director Henderson. Please pull the board.
Presiding Officer Flores?
Yes.
Director Huber?
Yes.
Director Lloyd?
Yes.
Director Boren?
Yes.
Director Giese?
Yes.
Director Henderson?
Yes.
Director Jimenez?
Yes.
Director Khan?
Yes.
Director Crone?
Yes.
Director LaChance?
Yes.
Director Lattimore?
Yes.
Director Embro?
Yes.
Director Parks?
Yes.
Director Ruiz?
Yes.
Director Savage?
Yes.
Director Smith?
Yes.
Director Taylor?
Yes.
Director Wilson?
Yes.
At this time, we'll take a break until 11:20, at which time we'll have executive session items to review. All right, the Board of Directors will be back in session here at 11:23. Agenda item number 8. The Board of Directors will conduct a closed meeting and executive session on the following matters. A, to deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property in Bell, McLennan, Milam, and Williamson counties pursuant to the authority granted by Section 551.072 of the Texas Open Meetings Act, codified as Chapter 551, of the Texas Government Code. B, to consult with attorneys regarding pending litigation with Sandem Baugh Gronder pursuant to the authority granted by Section 551.072 of the Texas Open Meetings Act, codifies as Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code. If you are not specifically involved in the presentation of the first executive session agenda item, please excuse yourself from the boardroom at this time. With each executive session agenda item, time will be allowed to clear the boardroom and call the next presenter. We ask that the public please wait in the break room in order to keep the hallways clear until the executive session is finished. Y'all ready? Okay, the Board of Directors will enter into executive session at 11:25 a.m. Board of Directors hereby reconvenes into open session at 1:08 p.m. And there is a resolution for us to consider. Please read the resolution.
Be resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the general manager and CEO to continue legal services in a total amount not to exceed $400,000, and be it further resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the general manager, CEO to pursue all legal remedies afforded to the Brazos River Authority to address the lawsuit brought forward against the Brazos River Authority by Sandem Baumgartner, and be it further resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority reaffirms its resolve to responsibly manage and protect its property interest on Brazos River Authority lands and lakes.
All right. You've heard the reading of the resolution, and a motion is made by Jim Lattimore, a second made by Dr. Ruiz. Please pull the board.
Presiding Officer Flores,
Yes.
Director Huber,
Yes.
Director Lloyd,
Yes.
Director Boren,
Yes.
Director Easy,
Yes.
Director Henderson,
Yes.
Director Jimenez,
Yes.
Director Khan,
Yes.
Director Crone,
Yes.
Director LaChance,
Yes.
Director Lattimore,
Yes.
Director Embro,
Yes.
Director Parks,
Yes.
Director Ruiz,
Yes.
Director Savage,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Agenda item number 9 is to adjourn. Do I hear a motion? Director Huber, a second by Director Henderson. Anybody against going home at the moment? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you all very, very much.